Welcome, folks, to episode 120 of the Morgue, an official CorpseFeed podcast. And I am Arturo, Padilla, the guy behind the face. And with me always is Mr. Nick Valdez. Howdy, Tex. How you doing, man?
Oh, man. Howdy, everybody. Howdy, Arturo. Yeah, now we're back in the swing of things.
Yeah.
Summer, we're in like the weird middle phase where it's not quite fall, but it's not, the summer's still going, so now some big things are happening, Arturo.
Yes, they are, man. Yes, they are.
For our coming attractions today, unfortunately, it's not like, exciting things about the future. It's like, well, some big things are happening.
Yes, so, big things are happening. Not exciting for what happened, but right. But it is something that will lead to further discourse. So, without further ado, here we go with the coming attractions for the week, Tex.
Yes. So, Warner Brothers, and Discovery, we've talked about how they merged before, and we were like, okay, well, the new dude at the top, I forget how to pronounce his last name. It's like Zaslav, I believe it is.
Yeah, Mr. Z.
Yeah, he's, they came out with like a reported, they need to cut like so many billion off of their budget or something. It was something wild like that, if I remember correctly. And that's what they've been doing. They've been like, the CEO's been going through all these projects that Warner Brothers had in their thing. That's, that's part of the merger process. It's like, okay, let's see what they had their hands in. Let's clean it. Let's wash our hands in some of these projects. Right?
Let's see what we just bought, right?
Yes, exactly. That's what it is. He's surveying the land that he just bought. And unfortunately, part of that was the cancellation of Batgirl, which was a new movie being produced for HBO Max. There before all this, there were reports that maybe they were thinking about releasing it in theaters or whatever, but that doesn't matter anymore. Since it's outright been canceled to the point where they're not releasing it in theaters, they're not releasing it on HBO Max, they are not releasing it at all and writing it off.
That is crazy. Tex, do we know if it's completely wrapped up and past the post-production stage? It's all finalized.
Yeah, so it
just sucks.
No, so that's the thing, right? So there are multiple reports as to like why this happened or whatever. Some things saying that test screenings didn't work out so well, but ultimately we figured out why. During the earnings call, WB, they stated that they basically want to have like a Marvel type of plan for DC, where it's like let's do 10 years and build towards like some kind of event movie, and now they're just trying to figure out like a single vision in terms of like what they want to do.
Yeah.
But that's the other thing too, right? Because Batgirl was canceled, for whatever reason it was. I don't know if it's whether it sucked or, that's the other thing too, whether it did or not. Now
we'll never know, right? We'll never know whether it sucked or not. It's unfortunate for the filmmakers, everybody involved, all the hard work put in, because, even if a movie is bad, like, there's hard work put into every project, right?
Yeah. They still spent like a year on it.
They spent $90 million on it already. And they're like, you know what? We're just gonna, just sign this off as a total loss pretty much. But as you were just saying, they want to do the Marvel thing, and from what I was reading as well, this film didn't fit their plan. It wasn't an epic event. It wasn't anything like grandiose that needed to be told, according to what I was reading. So they definitely understand where the box office stands in all this, and where the fans stand in all of this. And they made the decision to kill the project.
It's unfortunate though.
It is unfortunate. It is unfortunate.
It's a bad look though, regardless of like it all goes back to the fact that like, oh, regardless of whether it sucks or not, like it's still a movie with like a Latina Batgirl and like a very people of color focused cast.
Yeah, it was going to be a very inclusive cast.
Yes.
And yes, you're absolutely right. That's a great point. It is a bad look in that aspect.
Yes.
In terms of business, honestly, I still just don't get why not just
release
screw it,
right?
like fuck it, just put it out there. You know, it makes no sense.
In that same respect, Arturo, like they're still planning to release The Flash. And like we've talked about on numerous occasions on this show, there are many reasons as to why they should really, really, really look at that movie.
Yeah.
So
besides the whole Ezra Miller issues that have been going on, that movie is plagued because their protagonist has just been in a lot of legal issues in the last 6 months, and very bad look ones, like just awful.
It's
awful headlines, pretty much.
And that's why this is all like bad timing too, right?
My thing with that though, Tex, is that lately I've been seeing, the new promotional stuff that they've been putting out there. Like for example, once they acquired a Warner Brothers and DC, I remember seeing their marketing images on their Facebook, be the Snyderverse Trinity,
yes,
and
still confusing,
which is wild, right? And then I was on the socials today just looking at some boards, and someone also posted that they saw some HBO Max advertisements with Cavill, Godot, Momoa, and Affleck. But this goes back to what we were just saying with greenlighting The Flash, right? By just keeping that movie out there, we're still in this kind of Snyderverse bubble that we need to get out of, right?
Yeah, because we have Aquaman 2, which we talked about last episode, with Ben Affleck making an appearance.
Yes. So
according to the report, he actually replaced a Michael Keaton cameo. So like Michael Keaton would have been in Batgirl, he would have been in Aquaman.
Wow.
He would have been like Michael Keaton's Batman probably would have been like the connecting thread, because he's popping up in Flash, and he probably would have been like, okay, let's spearhead this new thing, but clearly that's not the plan anymore.
Yeah, and then to top it off, we have news that the Joker 2 has been greenlit as well. With Lady Gaga confirmed.
It's really happening.
So we go back to the beginning of the conversation where we said that they were looking to have some sort of 10-year plan, yet we're over here still messing with these one-shots, right?
Yes.
Which that was part of the old Warner Brothers DC plan, is to have different creative voices come in and do the one-shots, like with James Gunn, with this guy with Joker. I forget what the director's name is. But that was their original plan. Like, these things can live in their own universe, in their own timeline, while we do something back here still, with the other Holy Trinity. So that seemed like a decent idea, but they still never really had a grasp on their Justice League, right? Their quote unquote Avengers, right? That has been the issue for DC. Like, they kind of ruined the whole Superman thing with Snyder because they wanted to compete directly with Marvel. And they pushed out after Man of Steel, they pushed out Batman versus Superman, which was the downfall of the Snyderverse, honestly. So it's I'm hoping they figure it out. We brought it up in our special episode last week, right? Where we spoke about the multiverse saga, that DC needed to Warner Brothers, Discovery DC, whoever they want to be called, they need to just go get the best person in that building and grab him or her and be like, hey, We need a freaking plan. We need a map over here.
Yeah.
To get us from point A, to point Z,
Yeah, and that's the other thing about all of this too, is that there is no, the only one seeming to be in charge is the CEO, who has no issue with like just cutting off things that are already done.
Yeah.
So we who even knows what DC's future is going to look like, but like it's clear they have at least some kind of plan, but at the same time, WB's already had this plan for like years, right? Like they've already been trying to do this. So
yeah,
and now who knows, right? Like who even knows?
It's still a big curiosity for me as to why even bother with the Flash, and why
unless
just cut Aquaman too. It was already made too, right? Like, if it doesn't fit in your plan, just cut it. Or does Aquaman 2 actually fit in their plan?
Yeah, same thing with like Shazam 2 and Black Adam.
And Black Adam, right?
They're theatrical movies, but it's like, for what? So unless Black Adam's like for like the JSA specifically, right? Like, oh, maybe it'll just be the Justice Society characters. We'll never see like Black Adam interacting with Superman, despite everybody going, well, what is that fight going to look like? But and that's the thing too. We also talked about, well, do they do just a clean slate? Maybe that's what the Flash is going to do.
Yeah,
maybe they're just going to be like, oh, okay, well, Flashpoint. Now everything's brand new. Even our Flash is brand new. so who knows?
That would be one way to get away with it, right?
Yeah, just pretend. Just say, okay, clean slate from here on out. We have we have a new Superman, new Wonder Woman, new Batman at the middle of everything, and and that's the thing. They still have that other Batman out there.
They still have a greenlit Batman, the Batman too.
Yeah,
with Robert Pattinson.
Yes, you have a Joker out there. You have a Harley Quinn.
You have
a
Joker too. You still have, like we said, Aquaman 2.
Yes.
There's, I don't think a Wonder Woman 3 is going to be made anytime soon.
Definitely not anytime soon.
But
definitely not.
But dude, who knows? If they keep going this way, they just might as well call Zack Snyder again and be like, hey, remember that idea you had years ago?
It's so funny too.
Let's try and do it again.
they're like fighting back against that too. Like there was like this wild thing that came out that WB was like, oh, well, we found out that all the support was a Snyder cut. It was like 70% bots online. Like, I'm just like, whatever.
Like nonsense.
Yeah, like they're really trying to like distance themselves from all that, but at the same time, they still want to keep the actors and imagery and like whatever, right? Like it's just
it really is. Yeah, but you see, like but who suffers at the end? It's gonna be us, the audience, and the actual characters themselves. So in that aspect, I am hoping they figure their shit out.
Yeah, it's Batgirl. It's Batgirl who suffers at the end. It's like, that's the other thing too. We suffer, but I didn't just spend like a whole year of my life like playing this superhero, and then only to get it canceled like near the finish line.
Listen, I was not one who was waiting for that to come out at any point.
Me neither.
But I did remember. I'm like, oh yeah, there was a Batgirl movie in the works. What happened to that? Now,
exactly. Like it wasn't the most exciting movie to see or whatever. But at the same time, now that it's canceled, I want to see it. Give me what I want. Again, now you're telling me I can't have it.
I still don't understand. Especially since you're still pushing out like Harley Quinn episodes, right?
Yeah,
and all that stuff. Like how you just dump it on HBO Max, dude? Like just for a month, it's like, here you go, peasants. Just watch it for 30 days and it's gone.
Their whole thing with
burn it after that.
Their whole thing with HBO Max is changing too. Like,
yes, it is actually.
There are reports saying that Zaslav no longer wants to do even like the 45 days after release on HBO Max, which that sucks.
He wants to do like sooner, or it's like longer wait.
Like a longer wait, because it's like, maybe it'll have a longer trail in theaters and then get more on demand money and rental money. You know what I mean? So like, I get it.
Business wise, I understand it, but it does suck for us who have been accustomed to just since the pandemic now, right? Since the start of the pandemic, getting shit right on streaming.
yes, either get it that day of, which was awesome. Those couple of months where we got the same day as like theaters were great. And then, I was fine with the 45 days after too. You know what I mean? Like it was because you would see it relatively soonish, so but now who even knows, man? Good luck to all of that.
Yeah, I just don't have to pay extra because, like, I don't want Discovery stuff. I just want HBO.
Yeah,
so
when they merge, right? When they
dude, I just want the HBO content, man. Don't change that.
Yeah,
it's been on point ever since its launch. So
I know, like, I get it with my cable. So, like, just the idea of
exactly
paying more just because it's now just like a streaming thing, that sucks. Like,
boy, only time will tell, Tex. Only time will tell. And folks, next up for our summer feature presentation, double feature presentation. Again, we can keep it going for you guys all summer long.
It's been a busy summer.
Yeah, it's been a busy summer. A lot of content out there. And first up, it's Peacock's new movie, They/Them.
Yeah, they slash them.
Slash them,
which is funny because thought it was they them at first.
Yeah, I thought it was they them at first. But it sounds better as They/Them.
Absolutely.
Like hack slash whatever it was, that anime, hack and slash or whatever. But yeah, so this is Peacock's new streaming movie. Stars a very great Kevin Bacon in it. And it deals with a gay conversion camp getting a whole new slew of new attendees, patients. I don't know what you would call the people going to the camps, because it's definitely not by choice. So
yeah, it's not by choice by any means.
Okay, just off the bat, this is a total, for me, I'm going to say it as a horror movie, it's a stay away from it. Right. As a movie in general, it has some interesting concepts, and you can lean to a wait for it if you're not looking for anything horror. This is not entirely a horror movie. It was peddled as one. It was peddled like a slasher, which probably brought a lot of eyes to the product off the bat.
It's why we're reviewing it here. The fact that it was marketed as a big slasher for Peacock, a big summer slasher exclusive to Peacock. And
with Kevin Bacon. So
yes, exactly. And it's a summer camp technically, like, even though it's the conversion camp, which is a fun twist on the idea. But before jumping into spoilers, I completely agree with you, Arturo. Unfortunately, like, as the marketed horror film and as the the promise of being a slasher movie in general,
a horror product.
Yes, unfortunately, in terms of that, it is a stay away from it.
It scores super low as a horror product.
Yeah, like don't really seek it out if you're looking for like a slasher. If you're looking for a Sunday night slasher to check out, unfortunately,
it's not it. No.
It's
not it at all.
Like you said, I agree. It's got great ideas, but in terms of the horror stuff, it's just lacking in every single aspect of it. Right? Like full 100%. Spoilers. Full spoilers for They/Them, just in case you want to go check it out and hear what we're talking about. But,
just to get that whole thing out of the way. So in terms of the horror of it all, it does a very poor job of even building any kind of suspense or tension. As you'll find out during this conversation, the campers were in relatively no danger at all at the end of the day, because the quote unquote slasher was only going after the counselors, obviously, it'd be cool if it went after everyone, no discrimination, as like a Friday the 13th.
We had like a Fear Street 76 situation.
Oh yeah, dude, everyone would be wrecked. But this slasher in particular, full spoilers, right? Full spoilers. So this slasher in particular, because they were a previous camper in their youth, they left the camp worse than when they arrived. So suicidal, alone, all that stuff. She goes into it and says what her life was afterwards. So that is the whole twist of it all. And that could have been something if they leaned into it 100%.
Right.
They leaned into it probably about 1%. And every kill you see, no joke, is shot away from it. Like every kill that is potentially important in the movie, it shoots away from it. You get one kill in the movie that you see, and it's still a piss poor kill, which is Kevin Bacon going through a rhino horn in an office, right? Yes. And then you get his throat slit, which I thought was a nice little touch, because you owe us a little bit.
Yeah, you owe us the throat. You owe us the throat at least. You know,
an act of that was actually the first real kind of slash we saw, right, in the whole thing.
Unfortunately, that's right. It's the last kill, but it's the last one we see. Like, it's the first thing we see on screen. Like, it's the first kill.
Yeah,
right?
like we get one where the groundskeeper gets like his head bashed into a computer monitor for being a pervert, right?
Right.
But even then, like, it was like, okay, cool. What else can you do? You know, it was horror took a backseat.
It was a shame too, because like the horror itself is also filmed so like lackluster in terms of like it's hard. It's hard to enjoy the horror too, on top of that, even if you wanted to, because it's clear that that's not what the movie's there for, which is it's unfortunate, because like even the scenes themselves, like when you're watching the kills play out, like even the cutaways are bad. Like it's like a splatter of like some like fake blood, and it's like a tiny splotch or something, you know what I mean? Like it's not even like a satisfying cutaway.
It's not like you don't even get the satisfying sounds, you know, of the flesh being ripped up, or the thuds of the machete hitting.
Yeah, like we've
nothing.
We've seen plenty of PG-13 horror movies that have been able to like, you know, curve the line of like, okay, here's what we can and can't show, right? So when you see something like that, it's a bummer, right? Where it's like, oh, you clearly didn't put enough effort.
Yeah,
into,
and then
like, if you're gonna hide these kills, hide them. You know?
Agreed. And then to top that off, like there were two things here that could have really worked in their favor if they leaned into it and have it, because they could have had a double antagonist here, since we actually get this conversion therapy scene, which actually gets pretty intense.
Yeah, the conversion camp stuff itself, right?
That was the most horror you got in this movie, in terms of, wait a minute, I'm a little uncomfortable right now. You know what I mean? That whole like uncomfortable feeling started in that scene, and you're like, okay, let's see what they can do with it. And they didn't do anything with it, because the kid Stu still lived. He still lived. You know, he has some burn marks on his chest, but he still lived, right? Which goes back to what I was saying. The campers were never in danger, and that is a problem, right? Especially if you want to do a slasher, or even if you wanted to lean into the conversion therapy, because it wasn't like, it was like, okay, next camper in line, next camper. It was they had to like pretty much catch Stu in a trap to get him into the conversion therapy, right?
Yeah,
which was like a dirty trap too. It's like, come on, man.
Yeah, and it sucks too, because like you're right, the conversion stuff is great when it's like when they really, really lean into it. Like
dude, it was very the Clockwork Orange, right?
Yes, the Kevin Bacon scene of like him trying to get the person to like shoot the dog.
Yeah,
you know,
great
so
point.
it's like, you know, that's a great scene where they're like, yeah, we're gonna break this dog's leg, and it's like, you know. And then I couldn't help but laugh, because that's another one of those things where it's like either low budget or low effort in terms of like the dog, right? Because you hear the gunshot, right?
And then you see the dog you see a shot, and like the dog looks like it's sleeping legit.
Yeah, they cut to the dog, and the dog's just asleep. You know what I mean? Like
they probably left the camera on that dog all day just to get that, like those shots for the edit. It's like, all right, finally we got it.
That's what I'm saying. Like hide its head or something at least,
man. You know but yeah, but again, to your point, Tex, that scene is what you said. It's low budget or low effort. Like it's one of the two, right?
It's one of the two.
But it seems like it's very low effort. It seems like they got scared to do a bunch of things, because that scene in particular is also one that you get uncomfortable with, because it's making this, you know, like Toby, the character was Toby, I believe. It was making he was making Toby shoot this dog, and Toby's like, hey, I don't do guns, like I'm good off this, kind of like, I'm not killing a dog. And then you had this this part where he was like, hey, so we're gonna start breaking the dog's legs, you know, like, so you had these little morsels of just this brutality that like that I've seen in like French horror that they could have definitely leaned into just a little bit to get, to get some more of that like like this person's not right feeling through. You know what I mean?
That's it. Because like the conversion the conversion therapy stuff, that's honestly the movie, and clearly that's the focus that they slash them too. Like that in terms of like, which sucks too, because it's like, oh, you could have just done away with the slasher and really, like you said, really dove into this conversion horror stuff, because there's a lot of good stuff there. Like one of the best scenes in the beginning is where one of the trans girls, like she's taking a shower, she's like hiding, and it's filmed like a slasher scene. You're like, oh, okay, in my head, I'm like, okay, here's the first kill coming our way, because she's alone, it's
taking a shower, right?
Yep. And then, but no, it's like one of the counselors discovering that they like lie. It's this whole thing of like,
exactly. But
like this really,
that's a great point though, Tex. That's exactly what like we're talking about here. Like you could have definitely like done slasher tropes, but without the slasher. Like you mentioned, like shots like that, scenes like those, like where we think it's a slasher, but it's actually, the real threat, right?
Yes, the real threat is the trans
counselors,
folks.
man.
Yes,
the counselors, like, and then there were two counselors in particular that were once campers, and then they supposedly, got converted and stuff, and then like those characters were, if they were brave enough to do it, they could have really done something special and just kind of horror evil with those two characters.
You
know what I mean?
I think that's just kind of
It could have gone that route, because it was like, that kind of betrayal in terms of mind. It's like, oh, wait a minute, like if like still finding out, hey, like you're still gay, you're over here, acting straight and making us do this stuff. It could have gone a deeper route, a very more like realistic horror, but they got scared to do everything.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's
like everything. They were like, oh no, that's gonna offend somebody, or oh no, that's getting too deep, or oh no, it's gonna be too scary, and then or too bloody, and then they just turned away and just gave us the low-hanging fruit,
Yeah, which sucks, because like that's why like the slasher stuff's so disappointing, because not only is it unnecessary in terms of like the grander plot, like when you finally get into it, like watching the movie, the slasher stuff's really like maybe like 20% of like the entire project, right? So, and then when you get the scenes, you're like, oh, they're so low effort and so lackluster in terms of delivery.
It's like Halloween commercials, right?
Yes. So it's like, why is this even here, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it sucks too, because I like the mask. I like the whole like stitching down the face thing. Kind of thing.
That wasn't too bad of a touch. I do agree on that. The mask was pretty cool,
and it's also part of the title, the slash through the like. So I'm like, okay, I dig the mask, but in terms of like,
also Tex, before I forget, the freaking psychologist lady, the wife of dude, she was fucking creepy as shit. Like that's another thing.
They only gave her one scene, which sucks, right? Like
she killed it though in that scene. I was like, yo, she completely broke down Jordan. Like done.
Yeah, and that's what sucks, because like that's what we keep saying. Like that's where the good movie.
That's where the good movie is. Absolutely.
And we like it sucks, because it's not like in terms of horror, it's a stay away from it. But in terms of like being an interesting movie, it's not like it's in that in between space of like waiting for it to stay away from it.
So
right?
like with my review, and my flash review that I do on Instagram, like I put that the movie pretty much just gave up on the characterization of their antagonist and the actual story building in favor of doing proper justice to the social commentary, which I think they do a good job of. But then like that's the thing. It's like, okay, you accomplished good things with this, but weren't you setting out to make a horror movie?
Wasn't this a horror movie?
Like, or was it just to kind of like do a good job with this, with the drama aspect of it? Because I felt like at the end of the day, this could have been a drama, like an after-school special that you would see on HBO or something. You know what I mean?
Right. And there's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that. But then you peddle it like a freaking slasher and horror movie. You peddle it like Sleepaway Camp. Right.
Yes.
Which I was like, at first I was like, oh, is this going sleepaway campish?
Yes, because that's the thing. Sleepaway Camp's the biggest
that was the first one.
It was the
Yes.
biggest example of like, okay, and of course the response to it back then and what it's turned into over the years.
Yes.
And this would have been a great subversion of that, right? So like that's like you said, this is why we're here in the first place talking
Exactly.
about.
But they got scared, man. And it's unfortunate because you would think a movie with such a message behind it, right? Wouldn't be
It's
scared to go to these places, right?
Yes, that's
Because
what sucks.
you
It's a
already
horror
got
movie. Yes, it's a
yeah,
horror movie set at a conversion camp.
you
right?
already
So
got
it's
your
like,
message there. Like, hey, we have
yes,
these trans characters, these gay
yes,
characters. Let's do it. Let's get it, right? Like,
yes.
there's nothing wrong with the characters that they couldn't even fight back. Like, the characters didn't even fight back. There was no like scene where there was any kind of fighting back, any kind of
completely
like anything.
separate.
Dude,
it was completely separated from the slasher stuff, which is
that's a problem.
Yes, that's a huge problem because it's like, because the slashers, as you explained, Arturo, she's driven by revenge, which is a fine idea, right?
That's,
like
listen,
that's
Friday
horror.
the 13th,
that's horror 101.
Jason's mom was driven by revenge. Okay, that's please. Okay,
like conversion camp revenge. Awesome.
Let's get it. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Right, but no, you're right. Like it's like scared of either making a horror movie or like fully going into these conversion camp scenes, which is like which is what we talked about, where it's like, if you're not going to do the slasher, hide it.
Do that horror, because honestly, like I didn't do research on this, but these places exist in real life. You know what I mean?
They exist and they suck.
They're as fucking much as terrible.
Yeah.
Okay, so like you have the ability to actually showcase something and show the world what happens here. And like I said, like they do justice to that social commentary. Like that one scene where they're all sharing their feelings and stuff like that. That got really emotional, man. I'm like, yo, this, like, they figured that out.
Yes,
it worked. It got to me.
I was like, okay, this is how I'm getting to know these characters.
Yes.
And then they're gonna start dying. And then
exactly. I'm like, okay, cool. You got me to empathize with the characters. You got me there. But then like they just got scared, Tex. They just really got scared of the bite, man. Like they got that bark in there, but then they were like, you know what? Let's just do a little nibble. And even that nibble was just like Kevin Bacon getting his throat slashed at the end. And honestly, like that is the real, big like downfall of this thing. It's like you do justice to it in one aspect, right? But then in the aspect of actual movie making, story building, and horror, like you kind of fumbled the bag there.
And
it's unfortunate
together.
It doesn't, because the protagonist worked, right? The cast was pretty decent. It wasn't great by any means, but they did a pretty decent job with what little they had.
In terms of like people I've never seen before, like in terms of a young cast who, I'm like, okay, maybe like they have the roots of that talent there, right? In terms of like, okay, I'll see some of them in like something else, but it's also like, you're right, like this isn't a good showcase because they don't get to do anything. They don't get to be like,
there's no final girl.
There's no final girl. There's no like, we get some scenes of them being uncomfortable in various ways in the camp, right?
Yes.
But there's no follow through, because there's no there's no challenge to it, right? So it's just kind of like
no one's getting picked off. And then what sucks, it's like they don't start finding the bodies till like the very end, which is like kind of boring.
Like they're all left in one area at the end. They're like displayed.
Like that one dude finds the the groundskeeper in the lake, right?
Yes.
And then they find the other people just like you said, displayed in the freaking cafeteria, and you're like, what fun is that? And then what's weird is that like Jordan's character, like they didn't really react too well when they saw a bunch of dead bodies, like
it was very stoic. And
I'm like, oh, look, 4 dead people. Let me keep running that way.
Like that's all part of the weird movie making aspect.
Yeah,
and then thing that we keep talking about, right?
And then even Jordan's final decision at the end, right?
Didn't make sense either with the whole
Yeah, so they have a gun pointing at freaking Kevin Bacon, right? While the slasher's like, just shoot him, you know what evil he does, and blah 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 blah. And the slasher, she's telling Jordan to shoot him, to take him down, to kill him. And Jordan's like, you know what? I'm gonna make the strong decision to not do this. Right? And you're like, oh.
Yeah, and it sucks too, because it's like the killer's there, instead of being like, well, if you're not gonna join me, then you're in my way. Like,
that's what I thought was gonna happen. I'm like, Veda, you gotta take Jordan down.
But no, like,
you can't see without his glasses.
Yeah, the killer's just like arrested. And that's the other thing too. I was so distracted the whole time. I was like, oh, where are the bees? Right? I was so
he can't
distracted
see without his glasses. Oh man.
But yeah, then she gets arrested.
R.I.P. Macaulay Culkin, my girl. Those bees got him.
Great movie.
For that freaking mood ring, bro.
Mood ring.
Anyways,
and then she gets arrested. Like, I'm like,
very anticlimactic too, right?
Weird end for.
I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna get arrested. Like, not even charge at anybody. Like in Scream, right? Just like Stu did and charge somebody, or like Billy charging somebody.
No, like forcing Jordan to use the gun, or like no, like nothing.
It would have been cool if like, let's say Jordan would have hopped on board, and then like there would have been like newspaper articles at the end of the credits showing that these killings are still going on, and these conversion camps, right?
Either that, or like a whole like a swerve, or like as in like, oh, I'll join you, but then shoot the killer instead. And then Kevin Bacon's like, something.
Yeah,
right?
But it's like Jordan didn't go through enough in the movie to make that decision like that.
That was the other thing too.
Like,
they make Jordan like the emotional anchor.
Yeah, like that's thing. One thing. Like, it's like, hey Jordan, like, have you killed a bunch of people in this movie yet? Like, have you had to go through like, hey, my friend just turned to a zombie, so I got to shoot him in the face, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Whereas it's the pound of flesh argument.
Listen,
exactly. As we've talked about in the past, there's certainly a movie that we'll get to where it's like, oh, clearly they paid the pound of flesh, and it's like, it's either physical or emotional, right? Like, it's and we count both in terms of like horror, right?
Neither, and this one, you're absolutely right. It was neither physical pound of flesh nor emotional, because like I said, at least if every camper had to go through that grueling conversion therapy Stu had to go through, you would understand the trauma that these people went through, the physical trauma, emotional trauma, all that stuff, right? But like, no one went through anything but Stu. And Stu just got caught in the whole jock thing because he was the jock having sex, right?
Yes.
So like Stu got, but like he still lived. So it's not like that was even executed properly,
Yeah, and that's just a shame. It's like, that's where it gets caught up in the whole like the unfortunate messaging of it all, right? Where it's like, it's cool. Like, it's cool to see a very queer focused movie. But then, like, you don't let your characters do anything. You don't let your characters be challenged. You don't let them be darker. You don't let them like be brutal. It's just like they have to be paragons of like a certain type of, like, they have to be characters instead of like,
they had a safety blanket over them the entire time. Like, they weren't even flawed. Like, they were like flawed in terms of like their character going to the camp because their parents made them, and in their parents' eyes they're flawed. But in terms of actual characterization, there were no flaws. Like Stu, for example, was the one who was like, I gotta be in varsity, blah blah blah. But then all of a sudden, they had that moment where they were all singing that Pink song, and everything changed.
And Stu's all in it.
And that was early on in the movie. It wasn't like it was like later on. Like, so it was not much there. When it came to like just giving their characters like proper like things to do and proper development, like
attention, really.
Have somebody betray somebody, like have somebody like just be a complete asshole, like
let them be characters, right?
Yes, 100%.
Don't make being queer their entire identity. And that's isn't that part of the whole thing, right? It's like,
great point.
like the whole thing is like this should just be a horror movie with characters that happen to be queer, right?
Yeah.
Like, and unfortunately, at the end of the day, it's not. Like, it's not.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways, folks, moving on to our next up in our double feature presentation here
let's talk about that pound of flesh, right? Like,
yeah, let's definitely talk about that pound of flesh. There's a bunch of pounds here, a lot of pounds, a lot of flesh, a lot of pounds. And finally, folks, we got a Predator movie done right.
I mean, since what, part 1? Like,
yeah, honestly, yeah, because part 2 has its little quirks, right? But yeah, since freaking Dutch in '87, right, man? Like,
yeah,
dude, like legit. Just straight off the bat, spoiler free. Go pay for it. Go get a Hulu trial for 7 days.
You do
and then cancel it after 7 days. But yeah, just make sure you watch Prey and make sure you watch Predator 2 while you have that trial. Yeah, it was a very enjoyable popcorn action flick, man. It was well paced. It had a nice little length on it, you know. Exactly what was needed in a nice late summer movie like this, man, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Spoiler free review for it. It's a total pay for it. I agree. You know, it's not like it's not like a 10 out of 10. I'll straight up say that. You know, I'm not going to sit here going, "Oh man, it's a perfect movie." But
no, not perfect.
You know, in terms of the Predator franchise, it is the best one since the first one.
Yes, agreed.
Go check out our watch along for The Crypt. It's our debut episode. Should be out by the time you hear this episode. So go check out that episode so you can hear how we feel about the original Predator. But in terms of like a sequel, or like this is technically a sequel to like, but also a prequel. I don't know, like
yeah. So
right?
this is because this is technically the Predator species' first hunt on planet Earth, right?
Yeah, and it's cool because we do see the Predator. Oh, okay. I guess full spoilers to throw it out.
Yeah, for sure.
Talk about it, right?
We got to talk about it. You got to spoil it.
Yeah, I kind of just want to dig in because that's the thing too. Like, there's only so much you can praise or even criticize about it because without spoiling it, because it's not a lot of movie. That's the other thing, right? Like, it's a very brisk watch. But no, it's cool how you see the Predator getting dropped off. When's the last? Have we ever seen that before in any of these movies?
Damn,
I don't think so, right?
I don't think so.
The Predator's just always there.
Yeah, like he's already like causing havoc there usually, right?
Right. Yeah.
But this is the first time we see it kind of just get dropped off on the planet, right? Like, here you go, have fun, you know, have a great day, son. You know, please be home before midnight.
That's exactly what it is.
You know, bring home a couple good cadavers and shit.
Have a good day at school, son.
Make sure you kill them peoples down there or things, whatever it is. Speaking of kills, though, like what was really cool just from the get-go, you will notice the food chain, right, throughout the whole point of this movie. And I thought it was really awesome how the Predator kind of went through the food chain. It upgraded as it went along, right? Like, since it is its first hunt here, it's seeing how the environment works and the biology works, down here. So it first starts out with this little mouse, right? And then he kills that snake, right? He upgrades from a snake to a wolf, and then from a wolf to a bear, from a bear to people, right? And I'm sorry, from a bear to a Comanche tribe, right? Then from a Comanche tribe to like French poachers with actual arms, with firearms. So you get the awesome evolution of what the Predator's about. He's a hunter, he's there to hunt game, and as we see throughout the movie and as we've seen before, the Predator has a thing with like, hey, if you're not a threat to me, and you don't have a weapon in your hand and you're not coming at me, I'm not really going to consider you a threat.
Yeah, because it's more about like as
a big game hunter.
As we've more figured out over the years, it's about the thrill of the hunt for these predator tribes.
The thrill of the hunt.
The hunt
is on. I love it.
Yo, and that's what it is. Yeah, exactly. And then
but like
that's
Texas
the
said,
idea
that's
about
exactly
Prey.
what it is.
That's what Prey is.
Yeah,
you know?
and I love that is still part of their like of their morals, that hey, I'm here to hunt. I'm here to hunt. If you're coming at me, like I am coming at you. And we see that like the wolf, for instance, gets a good bite on it, right? And it takes its skull. The bear takes a good bite on it. It takes its skull. So we know that once, that's the awesome part about Predator. It's nice and clear cut. You know where you stand. And this is why this movie works, right? Because of how everything is. It's I love it because you take this entity of this predator alien species and you just drop it in the middle of a timeline, right? And
it's
just
characterized well too. Like
yes.
it like you said, going along what you said, like in terms of going back to the they slash them conversation of horror movie making, right? Like so we had a big discussion during our Predator watch along over what the Predator movies are, right? Is like, are they a slasher movie? Are they a monster movie? Before we ultimately decided a monster movie. So with that in mind, it's perfect with that in Prey too. Cause like, assuming this is like, if this was your first like introduction to the Predator in general, like as a monster, you get it right away. Like you understand it through the course of the movie. You're like, oh, okay, it's working its way up the food chain.
Yep.
Figuring out tactics, using its own weapons to counter it, stuff like that. But like you get that monster mentality, which is very important in terms of like creating an alien. Right?
Yeah,
like
correct.
When you figure out it's how it works and its methodology and its biology, you're like, oh, okay. Like it's sort of like the xenomorph comparison, right? Where it's like the more you figure out the xenomorphs, you're like, oh, okay, this is how they act. There's an alien queen. They come from these eggs, all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So it's very well done in Prey because at the same time you're figuring out the Predator, but you're also learning more about the Naru, the main character. So like so Amber Mid-Thunder, what a cool name.
Awesome.
Right?
Awesome name, by the way. Jeez.
That's
awesome
a movie
name.
That's a movie store name if I've ever heard one, right? Like so she's been in like TV shows and stuff.
Like Legion, right?
Yeah. But what did you think of her, Arturo? Like this is the first time I've seen her.
You know what? Like I can compare her to maybe like a Haley Steinfeld in the Hawkeye show, right? Like she got herself into some, shitty situations because she just didn't know any better. But she was smart enough to kind of adapt.
Yes.
Just like our hunter, right? And what was cool about her, it's like, you made some boneheaded moves there and got yourself into some really, dangerous situations, but at least you're learning and you are actually a smart character in terms of she's an expert tracker, right? So she can definitely read the landscape. And what's cool about her is like every time she encounters a predator, she's learning a little bit more about it. It's herself, right? About the targeting system and the armor and all this stuff and the blood color and all this. So it's cool seeing her evolution. I like her as a character because she's supposed to be like a young character trying to like prove herself to her brother and her mom and her tribe, So in that like in that kind of like Kamala aspect, right? From Miss Marvel.
Yeah,
it's Kate Bishop.
It's that tough movie girl thing.
Yeah.
It can be a problem. I'll just outright say that. Like when sometimes
it is a problem.
Yeah, like when you get a tough movie girl who's like, "Oh, I could do it," and you're like, "That's fine, right?" I'm like, "Okay, sure," but then like when that's their whole character, you're like, "Oh, okay." Like,
yes, she just wants to.
Yeah, we get it. You want to roll with like the adults. And stuff
she
like
wants to one up herself. She wants to be like, no, I'm like, I can be a hunter too. But then like we get a really good offsetting character in her brother in Tiba, right?
Yes.
Awesome character, awesome brother, by the way, too.
Yo, man, good dynamic.
Yeah, seriously. He legit like he's trying to protect her at all costs, right? And then he encourages her. He protects his sister from, the other, the hunters, like little quips and, and little slandering like phrases and stuff like that. But then like at the end of the day, when she herself wants to continue putting herself in danger, he's like, dude, like I had to bring you back here.
Yeah, he's like, I
you
gotta
fell
give you
off
the
a freaking
reality
tree.
check. Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and I did all the work, not you. It wasn't a we, it was an I. Like, let's be real here. Stop putting yourself in this kind of situation. Like because one day you're gonna get yourself killed, you know? And he had to give her a real talk like that, you know? And you can tell this is why that dynamic was awesome, because you can tell, like, you know, he didn't want to tell her that, you know? He was like not in that mindset, but he's like, yo, you're not gonna get it unless I'm real with you. You know?
Yeah.
So I really liked that character dynamic. Those two actually, it kept me in it in terms of that like emotional anchor that like, you know, like I have to get with my brother. And I also wanted to see how he ended up as a character because he was so well written.
Yeah, and in terms of like the, you know, their final battle together too, like that was pretty dope because, you know, like after all that, like, and seeing her in action, he's like, he had to open up and be like, look, it was your idea that helped me take down this lion, and you know. And so that's part of the whole rambunctious movie girl thing where I was talking about, where it's like, yeah, this could go very wrong. And that's, you know, I gotta admit, in the beginning, I was like, oh no.
Yeah,
it
was like, a little heavy. No. You know what I mean?
Yes, it was very heavy with it.
They laid it on super thick with that, right in the beginning.
But then when you get that conversation, then it's like, oh, okay, it clicks. You're like, okay, this is what you were trying to do. Like, it's like, okay, now, you know, and then because it's like, oh, we're seeing her learn as she goes.
Yeah,
you know, but
exactly.
But it was a little thick.
Oh my god, dude! Especially when she tried to go for that bear and she freaking broke her bow and arrow or her bow, and I was like, oh, you're such an amateur. You're gonna freaking die now. And listen. Thank God for that dog, dude. That dog got her out of so many situations. What a good boy.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like, you know, and that's the other thing too. There's a weird criticism going around about this, where it's definitely not a criticism of those who've seen the movie, right? Where like one of the memes, quote unquote memes, you know, memes are supposed to be funny. So that says like, you know, it shows the cast of Predator that's like, oh, okay, 8 military trained dudes couldn't take down a Predator or whatever, but this one untrained Native American woman can defeat the Predator. And first of all, that's not a watch of the, like, you didn't watch Prey, right?
Yeah, you definitely didn't watch Prey, because my man took hit after hit after hit. Because again, he had no clue what he was going to encounter. He didn't know the wolf was going to bite the shit out of his thigh.
Yeah, he didn't know the bear was going to pose such a challenge, right?
Dude, again, like, just real quick.
That bear was the secret MVP, you know?
Dude, like, just that animal CG alone in this movie just was well done. And it's such an important detail, honestly, that if it didn't look good, it would have definitely turned me off. But they did a great job, man.
A full fight with the Predator,
dude,
right?
How
so
awesome
it's like,
is that?
You have to have the CG looking good, right? So
they did a good job.
It's great too, because it ends with like the Predator covered, like you see the outline because he's covered in the blood.
Yes,
but it's still invisible, which is a great gimmick.
It's funny because like at one point I thought I was drinking the bear's blood. I'm like, oh, this guy's so badass, man.
Like, oh, that's brutal.
Holy shit, dude.
And that's the thing, like that goes back to it, where it's like we see the Predator take these lumps over the course of the movie, and importantly, going back to the rambunctious movie girl talk, we're seeing her learn from her mistakes and improve, and actually like figure her shit out too. So it's like it all just works together when you get that final, like, so you get the second to final battle, which is kind of like, I don't know, that's also part of why this isn't a 10 out of 10, because there's a stretch in the movie where it's kind of like, oh, this is clearly what they needed to make it 90 minutes. You know?
Oh, the French poachers, right?
Yeah, like they had to have a whole scene with them, and like,
and it was all in French. It wasn't even like I can understand what they were saying, right?
Yeah.
Did your version have any like English subtitles for the French stuff?
No, I think that's just part of it. You know?
Okay, yeah. So like these people were aiming to do some pretty like nasty stuff to this girl, right? Just by the way they were just talking, right? They just seemed like they were not nice people.
Yeah, no, it was creepy stuff going on.
Yeah, and then there was this other French guy who just spoke mad languages, and he was like, yo, you got to help us. And she was like, why?
Yeah. And then it's great because then then it turns into like a fight with her and her brother and the Predator, which is dope, and her brother goes out like a G.
Oh yeah,
like it's great. And then you get to the final battle, which is it's well earned, right? I think going back to the original Predator, when you finally get Dutch figuring out the situation, figure out how to make his blood cold, like how to hide himself. Same with her, where she figured out like the little flower that she's been
herb,
using.
that flower just cools her blood down to the point where she doesn't show up on his radar as being a threat, or being alive, I should say, as a warm-blooded target. Which I thought was, again, it's part of her development, her characterization of being a smart person and like understanding certain things. And it was cool that she understands healing as well, because her mom, I think, is like a witch doctor or a shaman or whatever.
Yeah, she already had those skills
yes
embedded into her culture in general, right? Like into her life. Like she's already learned so much and picked up so much. So like it makes sense that she like quickly picks up on all this shit too, right? Like
yes, 100%.
Because you said, she sees it basically multiple times throughout the movie.
And to just go back to that like argument that you said that people had a gripe with, like it makes no sense, because as you can see, like this movie happens in the course of maybe, I would say, maybe 3 days or something like that.
It's not that long,
but it's battles throughout like 3 days. It's like you're going through shit throughout these days. It's not like you're just
for survival.
Yeah, it's not like you're just walking with your dog like along this awesome, gorgeous landscape that was beautifully shot, by the way.
That's the other thing. Quick aside, right? The movie looks great.
It looks fucking great. So make sure you watch it in 4K. But like it's this constant like struggle of survival. It's like, hey, I'm getting into all this mess. I'm learning, but I'm getting battle damage, and the Predator's doing the same thing. He has tons of battle damage. By the time this last fight shows up, the final battle's there, I can say he's definitely not 100%. He's probably definitely about like 80% or something, because he got jacked up. Especially with Tiba. Tiba speared him with his own freaking spear.
It was so dope, dude. Yeah,
like, it was awesome.
That's the other thing too. Like that's why the argument doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
it's like,
it makes no sense.
Not watch the movie.
That's a trash take. That's a trash take, because even like in the original Predator, like Dutch had no chance, bro. Like Dutch kind of got lucky, bro. All right. And on top of that, like
Dutch was absolutely lucky.
Yeah,
and got covered in the mud, right?
Remember, who got the last laugh at the end of the day, right? It was the Predator. It was like, okay, you thought you got away. Let me just blow up this fucking 50 acres of this rainforest real quick. You know what I mean? Like,
and that's absolutely it. Because it's like, when you think about Predator, the original intent was to like really put a horror spin on these big commando movies at the time. Like we talked about that during the thing, like during our special episode watch along with it, where it's like we talked about commando, we talked about all this, and that's what the Predator is. A Predator is like challenging these 80s machismo guys, but like at the end of the day, they were good enough either. And so like we finally have someone who was good enough to actually take down a Predator and get the final word on it.
Yes, exactly.
There is no explosion at the end. She gets to chop off his head and be like triumphant.
And remember too, like let's remember, this Predator isn't the Predator we see in 80s and the 80s. In 87. Right. It's not as equipped as that Predator. The weapons that this Predator has in Prey are very simple in comparison to what we've seen in AVP and all that stuff.
Like technology heavy.
Yeah, so like he doesn't have a shoulder cannon, right? His targeting system he does have, which is cool. But it's like what, like arrows and darts and shit like that he has, Yeah, it's not like he has projectiles and like he doesn't have any like explosive projectiles. He does have projectiles, but not explosive ones.
Yeah, because even the one he sets up, like for the traders, right? Like the French dudes, like the little beeping thing where like it comes out the little flying blades.
Yeah, dude, it's like a bunch of blades.
Yeah. So even then, it's like it's clear that it's not. This isn't shoulder cannon Predator too. So it's like you get it. It's just a perfect storm of like, oh, this is why she was able to win. It's not like it's a well-earned victory. I think, right?
Yeah.
Like, in terms of like setting up her win.
Yes,
I think,
agreed.
yeah.
She used her environment. She learned, again, if it's one of those like adaptive things. That's like a video game. It's like, oh, I fell through quicksand over here. Let me bring this guy back. Oh, I was here. Well, we're back over here. Look where we are. Yes. I almost died over here. So let me make sure you almost die here too. So it's the learning of the environment, the proper use of environment. It's learning how to fight with the stuff around you, pretty much. I think we had a conversation about this, you and I, Tex, right? Maybe it was off air. Just learning how to like just build a fight with the environment you have around you, you know?
Yeah.
She, like Dutch, built some booby traps for him and all that stuff. And the battle happened in this area where there was quicksand and there was a lot of obstacles for the Predator, who was already slowed down. And he got by his own technology pretty much. It wasn't even like it was like a human piece of tech that actually killed it. It was the fact that she outsmarted him, right?
Yeah, like
at the end of the day.
The gunshot to the head was just like the stamp, it was just like it already lost, but that gunshot to the head was that final, like,
yeah, exactly.
It's funny too, because there are some connections to like Predator, like the Predator franchise. There are some Easter eggs, like if it bleeds, we can kill it.
If it bleeds, we can kill it. Also, when she first gets out of the quicksand, it looks exactly like that shot with Dutch, minus the mud on the face, which I thought, I was like, oh my god, look, it's that scene.
Yes.
The
gun she uses,
the
gun she uses is the same gun Danny Glover uses in part 2, where he uses that antique gun. Mm-hmm. And the close-up is that's why they show the close-up on it, because it's like, oh, okay, it's the Predator 2 gun. It's the one
which I told you, which means, Tex, that the Predators come back to the Earth, right?
And they
destroy the Comanche tribe and take that gun back.
Which is a shame, because but that's also why at the end she's immediately like, we have to get out of here, there's danger. And like, this is where it kicks off, right?
She's like, yo, we out of this piece. She becomes the war chief, which is awesome.
Yeah, and if this, if the timeline stays the way it is, like if this is like not like a brand new Predator, which it's not, right? Like it's the same timeline. We got the Predator 2 gun, so it's like, well, if we need to get the Predator we see in Predator Part 1, unfortunately, we're going to see Predator cleaning house from here on out with advancing its technology.
I am all for it, Tex. Like I said in my review, man, like this is the exact adventure we needed for, Intergalactic Hunter. It's like a plug and play adventure, right? It's like, what year is it? What went on around that year? Oh, yeah, you can place them over there.
Yeah,
put him in the Civil War, the Spanish Civil War, the Inquisition, anywhere you fucking want.
In like medieval times, samurai times,
dude. Have him fight fucking King Arthur, bro. You know what I mean? Like it's easily doable, and it's great too, because it's doable because of history, right? You have history already there. So the actual story in Prey, like the deeper story, is this Comanche tribe coming on these French poachers who skinned all their buffalo, pretty much, just skinned them and killed them, which we know that, usually, the Native American tribes use every part of the animal. So this was a big loss. So there is an actual story there without the Predator, right? Which is, firearms coming into the land, and all that stuff. So you can do that with history, man. Drop them down in World War II, bro. Let's see what happens. You know what I mean? Like,
Predator would be
drop them down in the jungles in Vietnam, like,
honestly, World War Predator would be a dope ass movie title, right? Like, dude, World War Predator. Just drop them in like World War II, World War One. Like,
dude, it's doable. Like, you can go through the history books, find any kind of like, covert operation that America had or another country had, and then just base it off that story, and then
that's the other thing too, right? It could work with other cultures, clearly.
Yes, clearly.
There's a full Comanche dub, which I actually want to check this movie out again to check out the Comanche dub. Like, like that's the other thing. I'm like, that's a cool little detail. So it's like, and kudos to Dan Trachtenberg, who did 10 Cloverfield Lane. So he knows a thing or two about putting aliens and things, right?
Yeah, so, man. Yeah, because that was the good sequel. That was one. I think that was better than Cloverfield itself. So
it was better than Cloverfield itself.
And then it had a shitty sequel on Netflix I never saw.
Yeah, was it Paradox?
Something like that.
Yeah,
and they advertised it during the Super Bowl, like being the next big thing. I was like, nah, I'm good.
RIP.
Yeah, seriously. But yeah, folks, go watch Prey on Hulu. Like we said, go get that free trial subscription and then cancel it after 7 days.
Watch the Comanche dub. Let me know how that is.
Yeah, word. Go watch Prey on Hulu, and while you're at it, watch Predator on Hulu too. You know, it won't hurt. I think they have Predator 2 as well and some other AVPs. Catch the whole freaking franchise before the 7-day ends.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. So thank you once again, folks, for listening to episode 120 of The Morgue, an official CorpseFeed podcast. And I am Arturo Padilla, the guy behind the face. And with me always is Mr. Nick Valdez. Folks, we are on YouTube. We are on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. Anywhere you can see a live feed. On Twitch, we are there. Catch this show every Thursday at 4:20 on Twitter, on Twitch, on YouTube Live. We are there for you guys. And like we said, make sure you catch the first episode of The Crypt dropping at some point.
It'll be out before they hear this.
Yes, it'll be out before you hear this thing. So make sure you catch The Crypt if you haven't. That's where we sit down and we just go through a whole movie with you guys and just chit chat about the whole thing. And go check out Scary World. It's another one of our little chit chats where we break down the entire Halloween Ends trailer. Go check us out on all the social, folks. Go like, subscribe, review, give us a bunch of stars. And again, we appreciate all you guys for listening. We have 119 of these things for you guys in the archive. I want to give a big shout out to Glenn Murawski for the music, a big shout out to Delvirus for the artwork. And folks, remember, it is a scary world out there, but we are here to walk you through it.